Chicken piccata, what is it? Well, I used to eat it at the Cheesecake Factory. Yep, I used to eat it at the Cheesecake Factory, not anymore. But when I used to order it. So it's pretty tasty. It's actually just chicken, lemon, wine, capers, butter, all into a little sauce. I'm gonna serve it today on top of some angel hair pasta. The pasta takes about 4 minutes to make. It's dry pasta. You can use a fresh pasta if you'd like. And this chicken, you just saute it in the saute pan, make the sauce in the same pan. It turns out really beautiful and it's super tasty. Stay tuned and enjoy. So to start off, you'll need unsalted butter cubed. You'll need some capers. I use salt-packed capers and I soaked them in water for 10 minutes. You're also going to need a lemon. You're going to need a chicken breast, some flour, flat leaf parsley, a shallot. You're also going to need a little bit of thyme and pasta of your choice. So first thing first is to slice up the parsley. I pick it, I wash it, I dry it, and then I bunch it up in a ball and slice it as fine as possible. You can also pick your thyme leaves, chop those up real quick, and just kind of mix it with the parsley. And that's going to be your herb mixture. You can set that aside in the fridge if you'd like to keep it fresh. Now we're going to give our cutting board a quick wipe. I use a wet paper towel just to make sure that things stay clean. And now we're going to slice our shallots. Now I just mince up the shallot. It can be a rough mince or a rough chop. It doesn't really matter. You can even do slices if you want. I just do mince to keep the pieces small so they cook quick. Now I set that aside. And the next step is going to be to cut up a lemon. I'm using a Meyer lemon. I actually like the taste of those a little better. But if they're unavailable, you can use just a regular lemon or any citrus that's not sweet. You don't want to use an orange, but you can use any kind of lemon or a relative of a lemon, so to speak. So I slice it in thin slices at first, and then I'm going to take out the seeds, as you can see right there, so I can just squeeze the juice without getting any of those seeds in the sauce. Okay, so now we have our mise en place. They're all ready. Now it's time to do the chicken. Now I'm using a organic whole chicken, and I just cut the breast off, and it has the skin on still. But you can use boneless, skinless chicken breast if you'd like. Now I just remove the skin, get rid of that, and I'm going to butterfly the chicken breast just a little bit to even it out so it cooks even and it cooks fast. If you don't butterfly it and you leave it whole, it's going to be raw in the center, or the outside is going to be overcooked and the center is still going to be a little raw. So I like to thin it out before I cook it, as you can see. And what I'll do is I'll just take my knife and slice the thickest part of the chicken breast so it just kind of butterflies open, and then I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces, and this will be enough for one really hungry person or 2 to 3 people that aren't so hungry. So that's what it looks like once it's butterflied. You're going to add some freshly cracked pepper, sprinkle a little sea salt over it, make sure you get both sides. And now it's time to coat the chicken with some flour. I used all-purpose flour. I added a little salt and pepper, gave it a little mix, and added my chicken straight to the plate. Now you don't want a lot of flour on the chicken, but you do want the entire piece to be covered. This flour is going to add a nice golden crust, and it's also going to thicken up the sauce just a little bit. So I keep on turning it around on the plate until the entire piece of chicken is coated, and if it needs a little more, what I'll do is I'll pick up a little pinch of flour and I'll just sprinkle it on top of the chicken like I'm doing right there. Once it's completely coated and covered in flour, just give it a quick pat and that removes the excess flour. You don't want it to be covered with big clumps of flour, you just want a nice thin layer. And I'll repeat the process for all of the remaining chicken. Now it's time to fry it up. I use olive oil and I use a good amount because you're basically pan frying. You want to put it over medium to medium-high heat, and you add your chicken. Now this saute pan is only big enough for 2 pieces, so that's what I'm going to be cooking today. So I added it medium-high heat about 5 minutes, and I let it get a little golden brown around the edges like so, and I flipped it. Most of it's cooked through on that one side. I just turned it over just to give it a little more color. Now in the meantime, what I did was boil a pot of water to add my angel hair pasta. I added the angel hair pasta. That takes about 4 to 5 minutes boiling. And in that amount of time, I'll be able to finish my sauce for the chicken. Now to finish the chicken sauce, I get rid of the dirty oil. You don't ever want to use that. It doesn't have good flavor. Leave a little bit of the fat in the pan, and you add your shallots. Add a little piece of butter, and sweat those shallots until they're translucent and start to get a little color. This will take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, and I have it over medium to medium-high heat. The next step, you're going to add your lemons and your capers. What I like to do is give the lemons almost a little char. If the lemons get a little color, they taste really, really good. So I let the lemons and the capers and the shallots, I let that cook for another couple minutes. And now it's time to add the white wine. I always use dry white wine. You can use oak or unoaked, it doesn't really matter, but you don't want to use a sweet wine. So I'm using Chardonnay. It has a little bit of oak to it. It makes for a really good sauce. I added about a cup. And I'm going to reduce that down halfway. It's important to note that you only want to reduce it halfway and still leave a little bit of liquid in the pan. That's how your sauce forms. I'm going to return the chicken to the pan, and I'm going to add the butter. I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm going to swirl the butter around in the pan until it emulsifies and becomes thick. I'm going to add my parsley. I'll add a little bit of water if I need to. The heat is off the entire time. The residual heat from the pan is plenty to melt the butter and make that sauce nice and thick, as you can see. Make sure your butter is cold when you're adding it. Now, the pasta is drained. I added a pinch more butter, a pinch more parsley, gave it a nice little twirl, and there you have it. The pasta is ready to plate. So let's plate this dish up. So what I like to do is use a fork, a professional fork if you're really fancy, or you can just use tongs, but here I'm using a professional meat fork and I'm giving it a nice little twirl, and that forms a tight coil. So once you have that coil of pasta, you just pull the fork right out. Kind of makes for a nice presentation. And for the chicken, you can see how delicious that looks with that beautiful sauce, those capers and that parsley and lemon. You can tell that's going to be excellent. Add the chicken on top of the pasta and you're ready to go. A couple things that I will point out is salt packed capers are way more delicious than capers in brine. If you can get a hold of those, buy them. And also make sure you're using cold butter. That's going to make or break your sauce. I hope you guys enjoyed this chicken piccata recipe and saw how quick and simple it is, and really how tasty it is at the end of the day. That's the most important thing. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe button, and stay tuned for more episodes.